Hi, welcome to my podcast, Curtis Pollard Podcast. Season 2 brings some new changes, some new guests, and some really interesting topics. My goal is just to have interesting conversations with anyone that I can to learn the most about what's going on in the world, how to do better in my businesses, how to be a better dad even. If there's anything you find of value, all I ask, please like and subscribe and share the show with any friends and family you think might find it valuable too. Thanks so much. Doron, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, man.
No, it's great to, I've been wanting to catch up with you for a long time actually, and we've been in the same industry, kind of moving in the same direction together for a long time, and I always look for people that I can learn from and develop from, and I think you're one of those. So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation.
Yeah, me too, man.
So tell me, you've been in Finland since
2002.
So a long time.
Yeah, 22 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, since 2002. I came here as 21.
Yep.
Came straight from India.
Yep.
Loved that place. We kept on going back and forward. So I guess you want to know what got me here, or
I think I can understand.
yeah.
I think it was a woman.
Yeah. It was a woman. It was love. It was blue eyes. It was blonde hair.
Yeah.
And it was great for sure. I mean, as I left Israel when I was 17, I didn't want to join the army and stuff. Just left, really. I had $2,000, which I saved, and that lasted for a very long time because I can find my way around. So then I found that girl, and we fall in love, and she was from Finland, and that's how I got to know more about Finland.
You met her in Israel?
In India.
In India. Okay.
India, yeah.
So left Israel, went to India, just traveling.
Yeah.
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 Met your now ex-wife, right?
Ex-wife, yeah.
Right. And you had kids together. Moved to Finland.
Yeah. She got pregnant later on, and we tried living in Israel
right
at the time. But it's a tough place to. If you're not from there, it's a really tough place to somehow integrate with the people. And even though everybody's open, but the world is just much more faster and much more louder. And, it takes something to get into it if you're not from there.
Right.
But anyway, she wanted to move back, and I was like, okay, let's do it. I mean, got nothing to risk in a way. I don't know, but like I want
holding you back.
Yeah. I mean, I was 21. It's a big kind of decision, but really, I mean, the only thing that was there was the love that I had to her, and then having a child, which is a huge responsibility. So I said, let's give it a shot. And I came here. I remember it was kind of winter. Also, again, I saved like $2,000 to start off, and then I spent it in the casino. That didn't work, and then you can choose your path as a foreign in Finland, and I guess one is to try and come up with some ideas that doesn't need capital.
Mm-hmm.
And start up a business that way, or then go to school, study the language, get a job somewhere. That was not my thing, because it's very hard for me to learn things I'm not interested with. So I remember I was thinking constantly about what I want to do, what I can do, and so forth. And then I came up with this gastronomy business idea, which is actually today's Wolt business model. Right. And that was like 2003 or so.
Yep.
And that was a funny, that was a great story because the idea was great, right? I mean, Walt is huge and so forth. And at the time, the only thing you could get home if you call someone was pizza and what else could it be? That's it, actually, just pizza.
Right.
And so I created this kind of like a menu prototype and walked around the city, visited different restaurants, asking if they would like this idea that I come and pick up the food and deliver it to customers and commission-based stuff. And then they would pay for the ad on the menu because I'm going to print like 300,000 copies and deliver them to households.
Right.
So that's how I collected the capital. And then with that, I bought a car. And that was it. Like, it's just, what I like about it is that really you don't need any money to start a business. Just need a good idea. And that lasted for 5 years, man. I had like 8 cars, few scooters running around, franchising in Tampere and Turku. It was a great sort of a lesson. I mean, every day is a lesson, but that was more like business lessons, you know.
Right.
How you should deal with employees and taxes and so forth. He got bankrupt 5 years later. And I remember when we closed down the company, the delivery fee was €20. It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. But that was the price that was needed to pay for that model to be sustainable, money-wise.
Right.
And it's still not sustainable for Walt and all of them. They're all making losses, huge losses.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're still trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
They're still trying to figure out the Excel sheet.
I guess they will just turn into a logistic company, right? I mean, but then that is a tough market to step into when you have Amazons and Posty and all that.
Oh. So
yeah, they're still figuring it out. And all of them are figuring that out.
Yeah.
So that was Gastronauti, and during these times, were you here? 2000?
No, I arrived in 2012.
There was nothing here, like food-wise.
Yeah.
There was just Turkish kebabs, few Nepalese restaurants.
Yes, Koti pizza.
Yeah. There was nothing. And then I thought that, I could do something on that side too. I'm not a chef, but I love cooking. I love food. As a kid, I was always eating outside and being fascinated about how those entrepreneurs make money and make food and so forth. So it wasn't so difficult for me to start up something. I found this spot in Isoroba, and then I gathered again some capital with friends, and we started Fafa's, and that was a huge hit. I mean, it was such a hit that I don't think anybody repeated that hit in terms of having a line outside, people waiting 40 minutes for a dish, kind of those places you see today on Instagram and TikTok. It was great, man. I mean, it was opposite McDonald's.
Okay.
Back then, in that corner, there was McDonald's. That street was this street. You had Lost and Found, Don't Tell Mama. We Got Beef, Rose Garden. It was like this street at the time, and then we opened Fafa's. Finns are strange consumers. They don't explore so much. Like, they need to know what you're selling for them to step in. Really, it's not like
true.
We would go travel around the world. We're actually looking for those places that
right.
are interesting, you know. But the Finns are not like that. So I just opened, and I thought that we would do the overnight thing during weekends because the street is so crowded. And what happened then was that McDonald's was so packed every weekend. People lining outside McDonald's at like 4 or 5 in the morning. But those who didn't want to line up for McDonald's came to me. And they were super drunk. And then they get this crazy service, crazy product. And when you're having a good experience while you're drunk, you never forget it. Really.
I don't know. I've forgotten a few girls that I've been with in the past.
No, sure, but it wasn't that good experience.
That's true. Yeah.
You know.
That's true.
But and then everybody came back with 4 or 5 people, and it was just amazing.
Before we get into Fafas, I want to take a little bit of a step back because I think a lot of people that listen to this podcast, entrepreneurs and maybe kind of growing business people that are looking to start their own business, I think one of the hard things for creative people, like you're obviously a creative person, right? For creative people like us, we have so many ideas all the time. There's things floating around our mind all the time. So how did you identify first gastronauty? How did you identify that as something like, oh, maybe this is something I want to focus on. Maybe this is something I would kind of, want to spend my time and energy with. How do you make that decision?
It wasn't so difficult because it's easy to make money if you have money. But if you don't have money and you don't have network and you pretty much don't have anything, no banks, no parents, so you narrow your thinking to a very narrow place, like how can I create a business having nothing? And then you start working on that, on that area, and there's not many options.
So just purely born out of resource limitations, just looking at...
I think so.
Right.
I think so. I mean, all of it, UG, Fafas, everything. I mean, I guess if people have money, they don't have to start up any business. You know what I mean? Like, they can start painting or travel So it's boring if you have money. It is, actually. And later on, I can tell you, because at some point we made a lot of money. And then this whole creativity disappeared.
Yeah.
Because you start thinking about spending the money. And
so you think that from your perspective, your creativity is born out of kind of necessity rather than a natural thing? Or you think you're naturally creative anyway?
I'm naturally creative anyway. But I think everyone are, in a way. But it comes to thinking what you want to do. I mean, you can be creative, or you can stick to certain rules, or whatever. I think everyone's are creative in some way, but they just make different decisions, what they want to do with their time, with their life, with their anything. But going back to business, but going back to kind of thinking about business, thinking about doing something, everything starts with a thought. I want to, how can I, and so forth. And you can ask questions and you get the answers, or you get no as an answer or yes as an answer, but that's what gets you somewhere.
Right. Yeah, I think it was interesting. You just brought up there kind of creativity and following rules. And I think that I agree with you there that there are some rules that place limitations on that creativity. So it's not that creatives or people with imagination for what they're trying to achieve are necessarily breaking rules. But if you confine yourself to a rule set of one sort of another, you find yourself following the same track as everybody else. So that creativity gives you the other road, the other like fork in the road to follow.
Absolutely, man. But it seems that what most people are choosing, that sort of systematic rules of living life, because they heard it from the parents, they heard it in school.
They read it on Google.
Yeah, but my parents were busy, so I couldn't hear so much from them, and I wasn't in school. So you have to be creative to get along, you know,
right?
To move forward,
right.
to achieve things.
Yep.
Because you don't have those rules. You don't have
right.
this. So I think like the system stops that.
Yeah.
You know, stop people from being creative because they are part of this system, meaning that you go to school and you go to higher school and university, and by the time you want to be creative, it's too late. You have 3 kids and a stubborn wife. I don't know.
We've talked about the upsides of being creative, but what about the downsides?
There is no downside. There is no downside. What could be the downside? I can't think of any.
Do you think that there's perhaps in moments of creativity you lose focus on details that might be necessary for running a business? Whether it's financially or operationally or...
Yeah, I mean, if you're not good at managing a business, then you should get someone to do that, like in your case.
But you don't think they're mutually exclusive? Creative people can also be systematic and organized and process-driven and so on?
I think creative people needs to move on. They can't get stuck on one thing, because then you stop being creative and then you don't like what you do. So you got to move on. At least for me, this is how it is. Like, I think a lot of businesses start from creativity, and then again, going back to the system and the rules get you stuck there. And so is the company gets stuck. Often I ask friends that run businesses, I like to discuss business, so I ask, how is the business? And they would go and says, yeah, you know, we're trying, but then I ask, if they're the founders, then I ask, who's the CEO? And then they go, I'm the CEO. And that's where the problem is, I think. Because there's one person starting something, there's another person taking that start to, in restaurant, let's say, to 1 to 5 units, 5 to 20 units. These are different people.
Yeah.
Because it takes different thing to get there. It's strategic decisions and creative people. At least in my case, I'm a very freestyler, you know, like, and I'm not hiding it. So yeah, I mean.
So in that case, kind of summarizing, the downside of being creative is if in the case you don't recognize when it's time for you to hand over that part that you've created, the downside of that being if you're trying to control that throughout its life, the downside is that, you know, that can end in a...
It can end your creativity.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're just kind of forcing yourself into this rule follower, which you're not. So it's going just kind of against the grain of, you know, of your belief system and the way in which your brain is wired.
Yeah, or I mean, you can choose. You can also choose not to be creative, right? And at the end, like, it's what people choose to do. And if you are a creative person, artist, and you start up a business, it start up well, and if you enjoy the process, fine. If you enjoy the process, losing the creativity, fine, man, no problem. But if you don't, then keep on going.
So what stopped? So do you think that Gastronauti could have been something like Volt if in the case that different decisions were made at different times, or you think it was a timing with the business, or what do you think kind of led to that business's
to go down?
Right.
Well, knowledge. Maybe if I had the knowledge, I wouldn't even start it, because I would realize that the business model is not, it would be 20 euros for delivery.
But that's the mind of creative, right? You're not looking at it that way as a creative person. You're not looking at it from this is my 5-year plan. This is, how I'm going to grow, develop from, 5 cars to 10 cars to 50 cars. You're just going, as a creative, you're just going, like, here's this vision, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get that vision started. But then, many people kind of walk down that road and then realize, oh shit, like I didn't really think about this problem that I'm having now.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Then you try to tackle that challenge and
right.
and move on. And if you get stuck so that the business is not profitable because of its model, then you keep on going anyway.
Right.
It's like drawing a painting. It might not be good for your eyes afterwards, but somebody else might like it. It's a business is a journey. I mean, often people think like, I want to start a business to get rich or to make money, or, like these are the reasons. It's not how I'm thinking. I'm having a vision and I want to execute that vision. I want to see it happening and I want to have fun doing it. And then let's see.
Why do you think so many restaurants that are established by chefs close and go bankrupt?
Because they are too creative.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree.
I mean, every business is the same, right? You have the rules of business. It's just different products.
Mm-hmm.
It's every business needs a CEO. Every business needs a team. Every business needs capital, and so forth. So, and there's quite a lot of rules. I mean, you got to hit all the buttons to succeed. Service, product, consistency, financials, everything.
Right.
So it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
it's a lot of hats to wear.
Absolutely. And if you come like as the artist, I have this menu, I have this art I can do in the kitchen, that's what you're good at.
Mm.
And then you need to deal with everything else, the employees, the system, it's tough.
Yeah.
So if they are the creative persons, most 99% they'll fail to succeed. As simple as that.
Yeah, because it's just a natural pathway in business that you can start creative, but you can't end creative. So the chefs that have this vision on what kind of food, what kind of menu, what kind of space they want, maybe they're going for a Michelin star, whatever it might be, whatever the vision is. Mm-hmm. There's kind of the road and track for the business is the same, regardless of what kind of artistic flavor they apply to it.
Sure.
So for me, I always get really sad watching what happens with chef-driven restaurants, especially because this industry is so passion-driven. People make decisions based on passion rather than logic all the time, every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are some instances where passion, the decision driven by passion has superseded that driven by logic. However, I think that in the long term, it's kind of the logic that you apply to that vision that drives the business into the future, and into the future, I'm talking 10 plus years, which many restaurants aren't open for that long.
No, it's it's difficult.
It's difficult because as most of the businesses in this industry are started from passion.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's passion for food or just a passion to be creative. And whether it's Fafa's or MomoToki or UG, they all start with an identification of, through passion, of an opportunity. And then the logic part gets real hard because you either need to pay someone for the logic part. And when you're in small business, in those first years, you can't afford a CEO, that wants 6,000, 7,000 a month.
No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. At the end, every company will go down. At the end, every company would go down. Give it 10, 50, 100, whatever. It's just tough to keep up with the change. And that's fine, man. I mean, I think for different people, like, the question should be, why are you starting this business for? If it's to kind of to have a stage where you can perform and do the stuff that you like, that's fine. It doesn't have to be always about reaching a certain amount of money and building up a 10 years, 20 years company.
Right.
It really doesn't have to be. I mean, if it goes that way, it might be even like there could be a downside where you got stuck with it and that was your life. Could get boring.
I find it really interesting that so many people start business to create freedom, but so much freedom is taken away by starting a business. And I feel like it's such an interesting kind of illogical process, but so many people are so passionate about creating.
Yeah.
And, they're willing to sacrifice their free time and time with family and so on to execute these visions. In my experience, it's always been worth it.
Oh, yeah.
I hope my wife doesn't hear me say that.
Oh, yeah. But then again, it's also about the creativity part. Like, I know a lot of entrepreneurs that all they do is work and they don't have to work because they have these things that they have to work, or they have to be there so that the business, so that nobody steals money or whatever.
Yep.
There's all these kind of ideas, and I think that's sad, because that's not what it should be about. Like you were talking about, being with the family, spending time with them, giving time for yourself. All these moments are by far more valuable than anything. So if you can have more of those moments, you kind of making more money. You know what I mean?
Intrinsically, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think I got that idea at early stage because I started very early. And then I kind of learned to delegate more and get things done
right
by being on the beach.
Right.
That's my skill. But I wanted to have that skill because I have other things that I value more than anything.
Right.
So it's so it's about decisions that you make, things that you want to do. If you enjoy working 12 hours a day, fine. For different people, there's different reasons.
Yeah.
But you can do everything. Like you don't have to be there. You can be on the beach. It's just really a mindset. And I could teach people how to, if that's what they want, it's easy.
The Fafa story really interests me, and there's a few reasons for that. Obviously, you guys had, a super accelerated growth period. I think you got up to 40, 60 units, which is wild.
4 countries,
Yep.
England, Sweden, Denmark, Estonia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Fafa's was established in
2011, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2011.
And you started it by yourself, or you had business partners in it?
No, man, I didn't have money, so I needed some capital. I took 3 friends on board, so we were 4 equal partners, which was today probably the worst decision I made through Fafa's. The first decision I made was the worst decision I made. You can only sort of realize these things later, because the problem for that today is that when you have 4 equal partners, it's very hard to get a decision done, because it's either 3 against 1, 1 against 3, 2 against 2. Like in a court, you never have equal number.
Right.
So that was one, because again, like people have different interests, and I think when I took the money from my friends, they're still my friends, to start up Fafa's, for them it was like, okay, it doesn't take much money. If it doesn't work, we can sell off the spot and get the money back, blah, 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 blah. But they were not involved in the business. And later on, when we made a lot of money, I mean, like, 300,000-400,000 euros of profits every year, you get them being interested, you get them wanting more control, wanting more money, and then when this is sort of what happened to Fafa's, because I didn't have a control, so I was after the first unit, I thought that okay, this works. But we are 4 partners, and if I want everybody to earn enough money, I need to open at least 4. So everyone has 1. And then I took Kallio. My strategy at the beginning was low fixed costs, very weird spots where there's not much traffic, because the brand has such a strong value that I wanted to create this thing that is hard to get. You have to do that. You have to walk there to get that product. And in Isorova, I remember the rent was like 900 euros. And in Kallio was 700 euros. And you guys are paying like 8 and 9 and 10. It's crazy. And then the third one in Tele was 1,200 euros.
Ooh, expensive.
Yeah. Man, but everything tripled since then. All these rents has tripled.
At least,
exactly. So, and then on the 4th one, I stopped in Pohjoinen Rautatienkato, which is actually where Walt headquarters is. And so that was my first kind of, the first thing is like, for me, is that you create business to make a living, to earn, enough money to live.
Yeah.
And when you reach that, you kind of create another goal or another challenge. Okay, I wanna earn that same money, but I don't want to be in that spot that much. I could use my creativity to do other things to grow the business. And that was the second. And then the third, I was looking at the ownership structure, and I want everybody to earn money. So then you start scaling. Making one unit successful is one thing, and then scaling the business from that one unit and deciding what is the right strategy is even more tough than starting. And for us, we still, the brand values, no one has managed to create the very same brand values that we have, because it's Fafa's. There's, if you go and eat, let's go and eat Fafa's. Let's go to Fafa's. It's never about falafel or pita, or it's quite a strong, and I wanted that way. So later on, the more money you make, the more you try to, look at brands that you want to look like. And I used to always say, like, if you want to know something about franchising and a chain, then look at McDonald's. But it's almost impossible to be McDonald's. So, but it took me 60 units to realize that, it's a journey, and you should learn from it, and and then go back and make the right changes. So then later on, when COVID hit, I think COVID was the biggest problem, because you get like 2 years of not having business, which no one can really survive.
They either change or die in one way or another. Even if they don't go bankrupt, there's changes that have to happen to survive that kind of thing. And, there's a lot of adjustments that have to be made. And, at least my experience in MomoToki, there are some changes and adjustments that we made that benefit us today. Like our chef-free kitchens which Fafa's also had, and training everybody in both customer service and food preparation and these kind of things. However, there's the other side of that basic business model that's required to sustain business long term that we're just kind of throwing the meat grinder during COVID. And it's hard.
Yeah, it is. Again, going back to the creativity, I think after 20 units, I lost motivation, I lost interest, I lost just copy pasting. It didn't feel like the right thing for me. Big board meetings with different people, different consultants, and so it started like the majority of the ownership wanted to pursue this strategy that kind of looked like McDonald's, and it's not fun anymore, really. Actually, it's not fun to do the same thing for a very long time, whatever it is. And then if you just copy-paste, it's even worse, because, again, copy-pasting is easy. There's no creativity there. It's strictly money-driven thing. I want more money. Let's open more and more and more. Yeah. And often these entrepreneurs post, hey, our 12 units, boom. So I've done all that and jumped off halfway through, and then I start thinking about international market. That's where I thought there could be more creative work, because it's a new market, it's new challenges, it's partnership, it's traveling, so we took Estonia, we took Sweden, we took London, and man, business, you do a lot of bad decisions to learn that they were bad, right? It's normal. Because today, when I think about opening in London, perhaps that was not the right place to go. But then again, we were doing very good up to where COVID hit. And then when COVID started, you couldn't fly anywhere. You couldn't really, it was really a depressing times. And then, so everything kind of blew up. Dreams blew away.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, decisions, whether good or bad, you don't know whether they're good or bad until you make the decision.
Absolutely.
So it's, it's inevitable to be one way or the other. And
yeah, and then there is this thing that, decisions are made with a group of people. If you own the business 100%, then better. But then you got to make the decisions yourself, which is kind of hard when you grow up a business, because you're not sure whether they're good or bad. So we had a big team of people, and I had this feeling that this decision might not be the best, but you go for it for the sake of fame, for the sake of money, for the comfortability that you might have by deciding that, okay, let's invest $500,000 on going to London. But you could also say, hey, let's not do it and share the money between us. So, yeah, Business is really, really interesting from where it starts to where it goes, and really the story of how it went there. I mean, often people say, hey, he's been building 60 units chain, he's super successful. Or they have a lot of customers that are super successful. I mean, success to me comes from the journey. I mean, if you are successful making money, not enjoying doing what you do, then it's not a success. But if you can, enjoy the journey, enjoy your time, whether you make money or not, doesn't really matter. That is success to me. So this was just my mindset always.
When Fafa's had its exit, did you feel that you had accomplished something additional, or you felt it was just another step?
Fafa's never had an exit. Fafa says a lot of rumors. People thought we sold it to S Group, right? I think maybe you did even.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
That's cool. No, we never did. We did a deal with S Group so that they would be our franchisees.
Okay.
And in cities where we didn't want to go to.
Okay.
And they did. They had like 7 units or 8 units.
Okay. So everything else was managed by your group?
Yeah. But I did an exit because going back to I didn't like that corporate way of running a company, especially Fafa's. So I tried to cash out early, and I was able to sell part of my shares with a very good valuation before COVID.
Yep.
That's also because I wanted at the time to have capital to invest in the stock market, because I thought that, there's a really opportunity there. So I did that, and that was fun too. So that was my exit, but
right.
We didn't really exit in that way. We did get offers, millions, and apparently someone rejected them without asking the boards. So you could have that too.
Right.
You kind of miss the train because of somebody else.
Right.
So really, it's a lot of things to get things right. It's really a lot of things to get things right.
Absolutely. How do you feel about things going with UG right now?
Oh man, UG is another story. UG is another story. It's very interesting. What do you know about UG?
Very little.
Very little.
Assume I know nothing.
Yeah. UG to me is sort of, from a creative point of view, is a masterpiece. It really is a masterpiece. It takes some courage to do something like that. And during COVID, when sort of the restaurant industry had this sort of depressing moment, even though I think COVID time was good for everybody, personally, because everybody's on holiday, everybody's away from each other. It's just beautiful times for us humans, But for business, it was depressing. So I had a lot of time to think, right? You can think and think and think, and then thinking that the industry is got really wounded by the COVID, and knowing that it takes 1% to succeed, something needs to change. That's where what I start thinking, because it's almost impossible for anyone to make it. Because even if you make it, me going through Fafa's journey, even if you make it, then your next challenge is how can you protect that? And so what's your next move? And often, and I've seen it everywhere, it's a common mistake. People, those who manage to succeed, pursue this idea that, okay, I'll just duplicate this success like you guys are doing. And I think that just creates more and more challenges, consistency issues, higher fixed costs, employees management, and so forth. So a lot of the entrepreneurs that manage to succeed with that single idea they started with just becomes greedy. I want more, and then they just open more places. So it's very hard to make it. Let's put it this way.
I think people really, really misjudge, the amount of podcasts you hear and, these kind of business influencers or, coaches or whatever talk about sustainability, and that's a word that just gets thrown around all the time. I don't think people realize actually how hard it is to get a business to that point of sustainability.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, well, the math works here, so, it's sustainable.
No.
It's not like that.
No.
Sustainability from the business perspective involves so many other facets, and it's everything from, employee or company culture, and also the financial side, of course, operational growth and
everything.
So that word sustainability frustrates me, because it's like, well, you can be sustainable in one area, but you might be messed up in all the others.
Sure.
And I think for when you talk about making it, I think that's really what we're talking about, is once you actually figure out how all the cogs eventually move smooth enough together that you can say it's sustainable. That's the hard trigger to achieve in my
it doesn't happen in the first 5-10 years.
No, and you can't predict it.
Yeah, you can't predict it, right? Yeah. So anyway, going back to UG, is like I had plenty of time to think, knowing that this industry is wounded. It really is wounded globally, because the model itself, with my experience of 20 years experience, is just getting harder and harder. Competition, fixed cost trends, ingredient costs, consumer behavior is changing. Oh, it's almost impossible. So I just start thinking that, there is no way for a chef who graduated from culinary school to make it, right? Really, there's just no way they can make it unless they have the knowledge, unless they have the money, unless they really get all these things together. But most likely they'll fail. So what if there was something else? What if there was something else? That's where my thinking went. And then you had Walt and Foodora sort of taking over and killing this business by changing consumer behaviors, because people are lazy and they'll just get more lazy, so they will order food at home instead of walking and so forth. So this idea of commission-based model, this idea of trying to get people socializing more was something that I wanted. I had those sort of pieces that I knew that if you could put them together, it might work. Man, I don't know if it will, but that's part of business. You do it to sort of learn and UG is a startup because there's so many issues we are trying to tackle within the model. Like, nobody pays rent. It's a fully commission-based model. There's no long liabilities. It's a big space. But I thought, what could be the perfect world for chefs? And I came up with this idea that, I could take a large space, because no one else takes large spaces. Not even H&M anymore, retail is dying. So I could have the advantage of negotiating a good deal with the landlords, build multiple kitchens inside where everybody can just have the stage to perform. You select the right chefs through MasterChef type of application process. And potentially you can create like a TV show out of it as well. and then build a platform, because the world is going towards digitalization. There's no way to stop that. So you build a platform where you can interact with consumers and help them make better choices, because often we make bad choices even when we consume food. So it sounds like a perfect idea, like a perfect world. You help consumers live a healthier, better lifestyle by taking them outside the house into a space where they can get the right dish based on their profile, hang out with friends. The place looks cool. You could see a nice show if it's Friday evening. And
some jazz,
whatever, stand up or whatever.
Yeah.
And create this kind of community and a chain within the industry.
Yeah. So UG is 100% your vision, or it's
100% my vision.
Okay.
It's like
do you feel
putting
like
things together from my experience. I think it's a mix of gastronomy and Fafas,
right,
and everything I know, everything I've seen also when traveling and doing business in other countries.
Your brain in Hakanimi.
Yeah, very much. Man, if I had a lot of money, I wouldn't need to do that. So that's where money can potentially kill your creativity, kill you as a person. You start buying stuff, you start, like moving away because you don't have to be creative. It's a very interesting thing. And so I start thinking about this world of perfect world where, chefs comes in and do their art and we help them to sell the art. Customer comes into space. They own the journey. It's their space. They go and sit wherever they want. They open the phone. They order whatever they want. They have direct visibility to how the food looks like, who's making it, what's the origin of the ingredients, potentially nutrition facts, reports, and you could help people change their lifestyle. It's very easy because, we order a burger because the burger is there and we don't know what's the other stuff. And then people choose the burger. I mean, it's crazy. But imagine a place you come and you open the app and, hey, hello, Chris. We know what you like spicy food, Japanese. You don't eat red meat, and boom, the dishes just come to you.
Right.
And Curtis wants to maintain his body weight, and, it's all there. It's just like a perfect world. Because often most people make these bad decisions of okay, I'm just going to eat a big buffet because it's easy or
it's accessible.
But, if we think about health problems people have, is mostly because of the food intake. So there's a lot to do to change this, and yeah.
And you believe that you've given yourself an outlet to start that journey?
What do you mean?
Well, it's going to be a long road until the consumer behavior develops in that way of what you're thinking now. But you think that UG is kind of the foundational platform for achieving that change?
Yeah, man. I mean, so that's just about the idea, what I told you. Then now I'm telling you about the process. Oh my God. Because it's a large idea, right? You need millions to start up this sort of idea. And I thought that, if you don't, for me to open a restaurant is easy. We've done it so many times. But how boring is that? Because you've done it so many times. And you live once and you want to fill your life with excitement and ideas and chapters. And so I said, hey, let's give it a shot. There's nothing to lose if you have nothing, really. And so I start working on this plan, and I end up with a budget of 1.6 million, which I don't have. So So I start collecting the money, thinking of it as a startup. There's a tech side of it, and met few people that knew me and loved sort of the idea. I think they invested in me rather than in the idea, because the idea is crazy, man. It's like, what are you trying to? Are you Jesus or something? Somebody told me that. Like, what are you doing? Are you like Jesus or something? And I said, so I collected, like, I think the pre-seed round was 500,000 euros for 25% of the company. And it was relatively easy to get at the time because the economy was then negative interest rate, which was like sort of crazy times. It was easy to
The money was cheap.
If the money is free, it's free. So, and that was like 2 years before we even start working on the space. So during COVID, I was working on the app with the tech team that we recruited on board, and hoping that I can get the public support, Business Finland, banks, and so forth, to get the rest, because I have collected capital.
Yep.
But then the interest rate changed halfway through, and basically everything, again, it's like COVID, everything dies, everything change. Money is expensive. You can't get it so easy, especially if your idea is about food and restaurants. So the doors got closed everywhere. Everywhere I went, investors, banks.
Many of them still are.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, because money is expensive.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right, I'm halfway through. I have 1/3 of the money I need. What do I do? And I don't know, man. If you would ask me then how I would get the place open, knowing that that's the situation, I have no answers. I don't know, man. But one thing I had is I had a target, and like a racing horse, they just look straight. They really don't, they look straight. We managed to open. So that was like the first sort of milestone to get that place open, because when the doors got closed, I could tell you it's impossible. Yeah, of course, it's impossible, because you need 1 more million and you don't have it. But I was able to get it. The landlord got involved. Some more entrepreneurs got involved, and we got it to open. And I was like very proud of the fact that the idea I had then is here. The showroom is here. Wow. I mean, it's amazing. And I was on the red. I was on the negative side because we had there's no working capital. But I said, fuck it, the whole journey has been like this kind of challenge after challenge. And I'm not the guy to give up as long as I'm enjoying the journey.
Right.
Even if it's stressful, even if you don't have the tools. Because again, it's the creativity part that finds solutions during the process. And if this would make money, it would be the easiest. That's when the creativity stops, really.
We're back. Thanks for the break. I actually needed to stand up and stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about MomoToki and MomoToki's challenges. So we kind of, we've grown to that 15 restaurant level now, and
cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah. Thanks, Kieran. Yes. So the challenge there, it's very frozen. Thanks. Producer Andre, not great at preparing beers, but that's all right. There's 0% alcohol, so you can still drive after this.
Yeah.
So MomoToki's challenges, when you get to 15 units in Finland, the market's not so big. So, right? So you need to go to the smaller cities, which is a challenge for a company that's run with, an admin crew. especially if you're kind of, dividing those admin expenses across each.
It reminds me something.
Yeah. And it's funny because, I've said this multiple times, and every time I've had this conversation with entrepreneurs that have grown restaurant chains, have all had the same challenges as the growth continues, right? You get to 4 units, right? And you go, damn, I need a hand, right? COO. You get to 8 units, like, damn, I need someone to run HR. And then you get to 10 units, you're like, oh man, we need to do better in marketing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you're in marketing.
Sounds familiar,
And it's just the business track, like we discussed in the first part of this. The business track is the same, and I'm having challenges as a CEO and kind of learning how to run, a multi, million euro company, which I've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
And a growing business. We're going through 30% year on year. So
by opening more units,
yeah, and also developing our revenue. So also with existing assets, finding ways to kind of increase customer spend, but then also which is my current challenge at the moment, is diversifying revenue. So moving into retail, getting into supermarkets, we have a very good process from on the back end with our product. So we know that we can scale that in the supermarkets. But yeah, those challenges, exist for every business that's kind of growing in that same direction. And now 15 units, we're going, okay, we're in all the major cities, we're in all the big cities, apart from really maybe Oulu, but it's a distant location, harder to manage, harder to visit. So next thing is franchising, right? So it's franchisees. We know that there's an opportunity for franchisees given our margins, but they'll effectively have to open in smaller cities or kind of off the track locations. And then then it's about international expansion. So we have 2 units in Estonia, that's had its own challenges, different market, different business practices, different business relationships.
That's a whole different strategy.
It's a whole different,
where to start, how to start, with who to start. Same thing goes. I remember I was traveling around for different international franchising fairs to understand this whole franchising business model. But in Finland, I feel like whoever kind of pursued this type of strategy is to put the dirt under the carpet, just because you would say we don't have our own capital for growth, so you kind of use someone else's capital for growth, but then you're giving them the locations that you're not sure about. And that's where the problem is, because franchising business is supposed to be a proven concept. I pay money to make money, but it's not the case for a lot.
For a lot, yeah. And I think, in a small market like Finland, it's very challenging. And, our goal is to be very selective with where franchisees operate from.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want MomoToki restaurants to open and close. So I would rather have, our current units plus 5 franchises in good locations earning good money than have 30, 40 locations in Finland. Because we talk about that sustainability factor, I think that's one facet of sustainability. So I would rather go overseas to, for example, Sweden and utilize energy there, perhaps, franchise there initially, and kind of look at the model from that perspective. But yeah, the challenges in MomoToki are the same challenges that Fafa's would have had,
Every company. Kind of what is the right move?
Right.
What is the right move?
Right.
And every time it's not the right move, it means losses.
Right.
Kind of spending money for something that...
well, the margin's so thin that it effectively does mean losses.
Yeah.
Sorry, Andre, just quickly, is my microphone picking up sound as far as you can see? Cool. I just don't have the little green lights here. I don't know why. But
I'm good.
It's all good. Yeah.
We should go back to UG, I think.
Yeah, let's go back to UG. So, because
Yeah.
But UG is really interesting for me as well, because when I look at it from the MomoToki aspect, and my whole mindset is on on scale and long-term business development from the admin perspective and so on. And I look at UG and I go, cool. UG fills a lot of holes that need to be filled. Big spaces that, you can take and negotiate cheap leases like you mentioned. A creative outlet for chefs that are looking to start their own business that don't quite have the business tools to do so. A space in which allows customers to experience a different side of food that they might not experience in a single restaurant location. And then a combination of tech, which is where the market needs to develop in 100%. But, I think that there's like a few boxes operationally because it's effectively like 5, is it 5 or 7 kitchens? Sorry, how many?
5 kitchens.
It's effectively 5 franchisees in one location, right?
Yeah. Yes. In a way, you could call it like this. But I mean, we're not supposed to. UG is not supposed to be behind the kitchen, look at the inventory, manage the chefs or their employees. I mean, our job is to kind of study the data of what's happening in general, what's happening in the kitchen, in that kitchen, in that kitchen, in that inventory, what consumers like to order. It's very much about data analytics.
And you have to drive traffic.
For sure. So it's a kind of a laboratory for me to kind of investigate my idea and what I wanted to change within the industry and sort of identify what works, what doesn't work. And there's still a lot to do to really understand this model. But it is sort of, it works. I mean, it works because, and I'm sure it will be successful if we have the time to get there. I'm 100% sure that is the future. There's just no way. I've always been ahead of my time with my ideas, with Gastronauti, even with Fafa's to some extent, because Fafa's is not a copy-paste of another chain. I mean, you guys sell ramen. It's been there. All the dishes Fafa's are famous for are invented by this single spot where I kind of analyze what the customers wants, because the menu that I started with Fafa's, nobody was interested with. There was just one dish that I put there because I thought that, that's something I don't like. Let's test if customer likes stuff I don't like. That was the stuff they liked. So then I keep on making stuff I don't like. It's interesting, yeah?
That's interesting, yeah.
And that's Fafa's menu.
I think many restaurateurs, many chefs don't look at it from that perspective.
No
They're
way.
Just constantly making food that they want to make.
Yeah, that's another reason why they fail.
Right.
So in a way, so really understanding that, kind of learning what works, what doesn't work. But, the larger the space is, the less time you have to.
The runway is shorter.
Yeah. So there's plenty of challenges going on, but even from marketing perspective, we thought that, hey, let's make the artist famous and tell about the artists and not tell about UG. Today, I think that was the wrong decision to make, because it is about UG. I don't think anything lasts for too long. This is why I said that, companies will struggle to continue for many years, because the world become TikTok, like it's
15-second videos. Yeah.
And so is your food, because there's going to be more and more options to choose from. And we, the consumer, we like changes. We like trying other stuff. So the big idea with UG was to kind of, there's two things that I wanted to do: to help people live a better lifestyle and live eat healthier, food, and then help them to spend less money on it, because we could go with the subscription models, where we could sell you, like in a hotel, a full board, half board. Imagine if you live near UG, you're a student, small kitchen, you don't know how to cook, because that idea of cooking will disappear also. Kitchens will get smaller, smaller, smaller. So it will be cheaper and better to eat outside. So imagine like a rich Hollywood stars, they all have chefs, right? I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. So create that same service for everyone. So in UG you would have 6 private chefs, a cafe with breakfast, the bar to have a few beers later. You buy a subscription. Now we're working on a lunch subscription for students for 148 euros a month, of which you redeem a lunch every day. That goes, I think, 6.5 euros for every lunch you will redeem. And the options are large because you have 6 different cuisines. So, and the more we know about you, the more we can personalize the menu for you and so forth. So it's sort of like a perfect world to live in, because why not have a good coffee every morning, good breakfast, good lunch, good dinner, living that sort of lifestyle, and at the same time get you out of the house to socialize with friends and people. So this is what I'm trying to do with UG. But of course, because it is a startup, because it is sort of large, the current situation is, for me, is that I wish to have the needed time to prove those certain things, which I'm trying to even prove to myself, sort of. But it all makes sense, if you know what I mean. It just all makes sense. So, and if I'm not if I don't get the time, I just go to the next thing. So, after we opened UG, we got the Vasa city coming to us and saying, hey, our Kaupahalli is dying. This looks like the right thing to do. And I agree. I mean, so we could have, a different opportunity in different cities. And if you think about smaller cities where students, where there's universities and so forth, that could potentially be the place where everybody go. And in Vasa case, we could potentially take MomoToki with us. If you guys are not there, take Fafa's there, and together we are better. And the model is sustainable, man, because nowadays when you sign a location, you sign a minimum 5 years liability. Who knows what's going to happen in 5 years, right? So that idea is wrong, in my opinion. You should be able to try out. If it works, I'm happy to stay. If it doesn't work, I should be able to move on without losing my business. And that we've seen during COVID, where companies went down because of the liabilities they had. So that's what I'm just hoping to have with UG, the time to do all these experiments and study it so that it becomes a sustainable business model. It works,
Right.
And then you can sort of expand by creating those spaces. Now, UG as a space could last for many years, but all the kitchens could change. Like, we just opened 3 months ago and we are changing 3 kitchens now. So it's kind of cool, because if something doesn't work, you should be able to change it. But if we had liabilities with everyone, I mean, we could have closed the door. That's no problem.
Right.
So,
do you think those kitchens didn't work just because of the concept, or you think that UG is still trying to find ways to drive enough traffic there? Or
both. UG is trying to drive more traffic. There are challenges because the area is not ready. It takes time for people to know. Summertime is where people wants to be outside and so forth. There are those reasons for that. But there is also the issues with the entrepreneurs. Like, the biggest thing in franchising is finding the right franchisee. And if you would come and send me MomoToki franchising, with the knowledge that I have, there's no way that I will sign a deal with you, because I would figure that I need to work my ass off to make any money, And it's true. You need to work to make money with this type of business model. You can't be in Marbella and collect money by owning one MomoToki.
No, there have to be, effectively, like if you're, I think our idea is that we give our franchisees the opportunity from a capital perspective to grow beyond one franchise location. So, I think it would be naive for franchisees to think that they couldn't be owner-operators from the beginning. However, I think that there are models, MomoToki as one of them, that would allow the franchisee to have more than one location, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, and in which case, like once you get to that point, maybe 3 locations, you could probably be in Marbella for an extended period of the year. The business always requires some form of direction from its owner. I think that very rarely do you find a business that can be directed from a distance effectively. Perhaps you find good business partners, but again, what your vision for what you want to happen and those of your business partner may not always align. So I think for any entrepreneur starting a business, to think that you can start a business and then be like, well, this business is going to allow me to be in Marbella, it's just not realistic. Unless you're in, I don't know, some kind of tech or, something like this that can be managed that way. If you're in any customer service business, or that kind of industry, you got to be present.
Yeah.
The customers want you to be present too.
Yeah, so I mean, in UG, all the entrepreneurs, I mean, I think what happened with UG is that before we had the space open and running, most of the entrepreneurs that we selected took advantage of the business model because you don't need capital. You have Doron there. Let's give it a shot. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, we're off.
Yep.
And we had to compromise on who we select because time is running out, and again, it's a startup, so you don't know. But we had a good selection of restaurants, and because of them taking advantage, and this is another thing in business, is how hard are you willing to work on this, and how much capital are you willing to put into this, and there's so many things that makes business successful. So along, like 3 of them are, they all took advantages, but some of them just maybe run out of money, maybe run out of motivation, doesn't have the power to give it the needed time, and even not even the capital. So you if you don't sell a lot, you start compromise. What are you trying to do? Ah, right. I was like, yeah.
That's right. It's just getting lost in the conversation.
Yeah. And starting a business with that idea that, hey, I'm gonna give it a try, without taking the sweat, and that's the result, and that's fine. I mean, I already have few entrepreneurs with new ideas that gonna step in, and then we're gonna see and try them. It's very interesting. Like the stuff I know, a lot of people don't, because I'm there and trying to kind of. That's what interests me, like how you get these things done and how you make it kind of successful, like and then you have the media that comes in, and like in Finland, if the media writes a negative stuff, then everything is, everything goes down. You have to fight again,
right,
to get up. So there's plenty of challenges, but I'm enjoying the fact that it is a laboratory. It is something new that I haven't seen nowhere. like I said, we started on the negative side of the capital, so it makes it even a bigger challenge to go through it. I don't think anybody can do this stuff unless you've gone through the stuff I went through, because there's so much experience in with me doing things that I think someone else would not open even. It would give up before opening.
Right.
But now that the laboratory is open, I think there is a showcase. I get the interviews. I get to speak to VCs. I get to speak to Vasa City. And I hope that I get the needed time to prove this.
Yeah.
So even if we close tomorrow, I would close with the idea that, man, I give it all. I try to do something people don't dare doing,
Courageously.
Yeah. And it was fun all along. Even, I had some sleepless nights and so forth. I mean,
which come with entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. But there is, at the end of the day, your life is your life, and you want to make your life interesting for yourself, for the people you care about, for your own thing. People forget that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the sleepless nights as an entrepreneur, people ask me like, why do you do it then? And the sleepless nights are not a result of necessarily like stress or or concern or anything like this. It's actually a responsibility to yourself, because as an entrepreneur, like, without being responsible to yourself, you just won't get paid that month. So for me, it's, it's this burden of self-responsibility that's required as an entrepreneur. And, you talk about these other entrepreneurs that haven't succeeded in UG so far, and honestly, a lot of that, I think, is just a lack of kind of responsibility or self-drive to...
I mean, the entrepreneurs who didn't succeed inside UG can only look at the mirror and realize why they haven't succeeded.
100%. Because it's not up to anyone else.
I gave them the stage to perform. Now, if you fuck up your performance, then that's what it is.
Right.
And at the end, that's how you fuck up things. If you compromise, if you don't give it all, if you would fuck up. I mean, one of them got a 1-star review, right, from Helsingin Sanomat, right? It's they fucked it up, It has nothing to do with UG. When we tasted the food at the first time, we said, yeah, you got potential, but you gotta strive for being better all the time. Asking the customer what they think, and then that's me.
Yeah.
But if they don't kind of give a shit, like, okay, right. We don't pay rent, we can do this food and serve it. If they like it, they like it. Right. If that's the attitude, you get nowhere that way. Yeah. So so if they didn't succeed, it's because of them.
Right.
I gave them the stage to perform, and I'm very, very happy that they don't have to go bankrupt. They don't have to divorce. They don't have to break up. They can move on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like so satisfied with that idea. And that just like, I think it's kind of a lottery. If somebody would give me this opportunity 12 years ago when I was looking for sort of Fafa's location or whatever, I would be in a different spot today. So it's very hard to, and this is why I choose these kind of businesses that are new, that give something new to the people or to the entrepreneurs. In this case, it's both. I'm doing good stuff for the world. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to copy anything. I think that's boring, man. And like I said, copy paste is the easy. I could make the best kebab. I could probably make the best ramen too. I was part owner of Fat Ramen. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't know.
Really? Yeah. I was part owner of Fat Ramen. I think they had a great product. So that's not that's not a problem. You can go to Google and YouTube and see how you just type the best ramen in the world and see how they make it.
Right.
It's easy.
Right.
But then implementing stuff, kind of continuously being better. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, without you saying, I know exactly your challenges because I've been there. And they would just get sort of harder as you grow. They don't get easier, they get harder. Because you have a momentum where the brand is known, where the product comes out of central kitchen, it's easier. Actually, it start to go into a point where the more units we have, that's when we make more money because the infrastructure is set for that.
Yeah, the economy of scale.
Yeah, and then you realize another thing and another thing and another thing. So when you said about the exit, I think it's a very interesting point because my questions to that, if I was interviewing you, is from the owner's perspective. What is it, the amount of money that you guys want to make the exit with? That is the most important question, because otherwise you would go because of this greed and never get there, and suddenly you're in COVID comes or a war comes and everything is lost. And so that's really interesting. I get the exit thing. It's not always easy, but if that's sort of the idea, then start pursuing that idea. Meaning that first I want to know, okay, we are 4 partners, everybody gets $1 million, we are happy. And you work your plan around that. How do I get this thing to get that? But having that exit idea, not working on it, not having a price tag, is kind of not having any plan.
Yeah.
And multiplying. Finland is a strange market. I mean, everything you go outside of Helsinki, most of the consumers consume beer, potatoes, and tobacco.
And coffee.
Yeah, and coffee, exactly. And ice cream, right? It's very interesting market. Like, I realized at some point with Fafas is that the effort of opening London and Oulu is the same. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, it is.
And actually, the square meter price in London was less than we paid in Mikonkatu, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So,
where's Fafas at now?
It's like the story of Elvis. When Elvis was a hit, then he went into movies, then he went into the war, and then there was the Elvis comeback. So I'm doing a comeback.
Okay.
Because the brand went down since I left, but I left because I didn't want. I guess at the end I didn't want to be doing the same thing. That's where it starts. I was getting dividends. We were making money, so money was not an issue. But
how many locations are there now?
9.
Okay.
9 locations. But when I say come back, I'm going back to the one very single unit and starts again, because out of the 9 there, I could cut half.
Right.
Franchisees are... I won't pursue a franchising business model again. So I would do it on my own. So going back, the thing with Fafas is that the brand value is something that you either managed to create or you didn't manage to create. It's something that comes quite naturally and with Fafas, and you can't put it on a business plan, you know. So Fafas, if you ask everybody knows Fafas, and everybody has a positive feeling about the brand, even though they had a bad experience, even though they don't go there anymore because they had a bad experience. That good value, if you could bring that product that I knew and I had before back again, then you have me as a customer. That value is still there. So it's been like more than 5 years for me being away, and now I'm coming back. Coming back meaning that we go back to the roots, we go back to how we started, and we do it again, you know. And that's going to be fun because, again, it's a challenge to find your new strategy after you've been having 60.
It'll be really
imagine how much information I have.
Yeah.
You know, I know what not to do.
Right. That's going to be really interesting to follow.
Yeah. So it takes 60 to know that I can say that to the Finnish market, you can't have more than 15 Fafas. And Fafas is by far more known than MomoToki, if you think about sort of those awareness values. And I'm saying that 15 is what this market could have, of which each shop is profitable. We had a strategy of 100 units for Finland at some point. 100 units. And I think it's crazy because we were looking at Kotipizza. We were looking at Subway. The both of them has 300 plus units. But you have to think about the product. You have to think about the model. And you have to have that much of experience to know that you can actually get to this amount of units. I mean, Subway is international. They have so much experience. Kotipizza has been in the market for so long.
But even those big companies like Subway, KFC, even McDonald's to an extent, they still struggle in this Finnish market.
KFC won't make it.
KFC won't make it. Subway's closing locations.
Subway's strategy is to close locations.
Yeah. And Subway just exited from Estonia, from my understanding.
Yeah.
It's a challenging market.
Subway is a very interesting story because the founder, before he started this single unit, he looked at the world and wanted to have 100 units, 100,000 units. And I think they're somewhere around 40,000 or 50,000, whatever. But again, it's like coming from a strategic point of view of how you're going to get to your vision again. And I think you've done a good job, only that he died halfway through. Kotipizza is another thing. It was struggling for a long time. And then these bankers came in, restructured the debt, did the right brand modification when Tommy Tervanen came in. And they just hit the jackpot. And pizza is different than ramen. Pizza is different than Fafa's food. Pizza is like burgers. You could pretty much have them anywhere. But if Fafa's was a burger or pizza, we wouldn't exist anymore. So it's very interesting. Like for me, as a creative person, as somebody who enjoyed doing business, and actually I enjoy the doing part. Like, you know, having an idea and then having, you know,
giving birth to it.
Yeah, that's where I really enjoy.
Yeah.
After that, it's just management. It's just money-driven thing. It's just, you know, get the right people to do the right job.
Right.
But at the same time, like what I'm excited about is looking at what worked, what didn't work, why it worked, why it didn't work. I just enjoy that stuff.
Yeah.
yeah, I think Finland as a market is very challenging, because you don't. The purchasing power is very weak compared to Australia or US or any capital area or UK. So I don't know. In the competition, it seems like every retail store turns into a restaurant. So there's just not enough consumers to kind of satisfy the market, and how they make choices on where they go is nowadays based on this. It's a very interesting thing. So I think UG is in the right spot of investigating what could work, what people want. So I enjoy that process, and but you can't. We are in a situation where we don't know whether we're gonna last another year or not.
Right.
But like I said, I managed to reach the first milestone, which is getting it up and running, and I think that the media is getting more and more interested on what's going to happen with it, because now I start telling what is it all about. So it's not about the brands. Like, I think that the brands will stay there 1-2 years and then move on. That should be like a thing. So in general, business is very interesting, and I think that if you want to succeed and minimize any possible losses or mistakes, is the best shot you have is asking the right people for their opinion, and then based on that make your decision. Like if you want to have 50 MomoTokos, I could challenge you, and then based on that information, you then navigate your decisions to what you at the end decide to do.
Right.
But entrepreneurship in general is something that I wish everybody get a chance to try and do. Like, we are all entrepreneurs. He's an entrepreneur, he's an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. The things that we all share commonly is that we all have the freedom to decide when we wake up, what do we do, when. That freedom has no value.
Yeah.
That freedom.
But we also have the burden of self-responsibility to wake up.
Sure, but some days you could be more easy about it, and some days less about it.
That's true.
As long as you have a shelter and something to eat, no problem. It's like really no problem. So if you are, the more you wake up in the morning, the more you achieve things that you want to do.
Yeah.
But that idea that that you, again, like, you don't have to work from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And somebody tells you exactly what to do. It's freedom.
Right. If you had, we've been almost going for 2 hours now, so.
Right.
But if you.
And we didn't start.
If you were talking to someone growing a business, whether it's in restaurants or not, what would be your word of advice on what to avoid when growing a business?
I think people forget about the reason they start up a business for, and then people forget about themselves. And at the end, life is all about yourself. Your experience every day with what you do with your life. And my advice would be is that don't forget these things. Because
don't forget about you.
Yeah, because most people do forget because they're busy with the business and whatever, and it doesn't worth it. I mean, if you would end up bankrupt and you didn't have time for yourself and you didn't have time for the ones you love and all that, you are having the same results. And if you make money and you didn't have the time for yourself and you didn't have the time for the loved ones, I mean, then what's the point of having the money?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good note to end on. And Doron, I really appreciate you coming to have a chat with me. And
and I think we should meet and have a beer and
a real beer.
Try MomoToki.
Not a half frozen, zero alcohol one.
Yeah, no, that was exactly. And try MomoToki. I've been once in the downtown.
Yep.
And at the time I was at Fat Ramen, and I think I went in to kind of see what's the difference. And there was quite a lot of difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, different.
Yeah. But we'll do that for sure.
For sure.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Bye.